To be honest, there are times when money does not disappear because of something big. It fades away, quietly, through little things that are so minor we do not even bother to remember them. Small expenses, tiny repairs, being just a little late, missing a small task. It may sound funny, but when they add up, it becomes exhausting. What surprises me is that many people live in this state for a long time without ever giving it a name. The house is still there, daily routines stay the same, but every time money comes up, there is this thin layer of tension that settles in the heart. I have noticed that before life starts to feel less draining, the pace of the living space usually shifts first. It is not noisy. No one calls it Feng Shui. It is just that the house feels less cluttered. The light becomes easier on the eyes. The little tasks of the day start to flow a bit more smoothly. This video will take a closer look at 4 common signs you can easily check in your home and daily routine to see which direction your living environment might be pulling your financial energy toward. And if, while listening, you feel like gently reminding yourself of something, that is totally fine. Something like, may my home feel a little more peaceful, may my heart feel a little more calm. Just whisper it in your mind while you are tidying up a small familiar corner of your home. You do not have to do anything more. So what are those signs, and where exactly should we look to see them more clearly? Honestly, I only rely on the smallest changes that repeat consistently in daily life changes I have observed over the years across many different households. Right after this are 4 signs like that. Just listen and calmly take a look around your own home. Sign number 1. The front door becomes easier to walk through, easier to see, and easier to breathe around. Take a moment to pause right in front of your door. Just stand there and look straight at the entrance. When the door opens, can you walk straight in? Or do you have to turn sideways, dodge around stuff, step over shoes, boxes, and things that were placed just for now, but ended up staying forever? Many people live in spaces like that for years without realizing it, because the feeling of familiarity gradually covers up the clutter. But the body knows it still has to dodge, every day, on the way out, on the way in, over and over again. That feeling of opening the door and feeling tired rarely comes from emotions. Most of the time, it comes from the physical space. When the front door gets blocked, squeezed, or narrowed over time, each time we pass through it, the body has to make a tiny adjustment. So tiny that we cannot name it, but enough to create a subtle, constant tension. This becomes especially clear with older adults, whose bodies are more sensitive to their surroundings. The front door is seen as the point where energy enters the home. When that energy is blocked or broken up, daily life inside the house tends to feel stuck. But even if we set all that aside and look at it in a very practical way, the front door is simply the beginning and end of each day. In the morning, you open it to go to work, go shopping, or run errands. In the evening, you walk through it to come home and rest. If that one spot already feels cramped, if you have to dodge something or feel uncomfortable right there, it is hard for the rhythm of life inside to feel light. I have seen many families where, before their finances or jobs started to improve, their front door area had already been cleaned up. Not because they were trying to do Feng Shui. It was just that one day they realized it was not okay anymore. It kept getting in the way. It kept bothering them. So they cleaned it up. No rituals, no prayers. But after a while, they began to tell me that little mishaps at home started happening less often. Daily life felt less chaotic, and their minds felt less stressed the moment they walked through the door. What is interesting is that this change does not suddenly make people richer, but it does do something very important. It stops the daily wear and tear on the body and mind. When the front door is clear, people entering the house do not have to deal with obstacles from the very first second. Their minds gain a small, steady bit of breathing room. And it is those tiny pockets of space built up over time that help people think more clearly, make decisions more calmly, and stop pushing themselves into the wrong choices just because they are tired. Sign number 2. The lighting in the house becomes more stable, and dark corners stop dragging on. Pay attention to your home during the daytime, especially at those in-between hours like late morning or early afternoon. Do you often need to turn on the lights at those times? Are there corners that remain dark even when it is bright outside, so dark that you have gotten used to it and no longer notice? But if you stand there for a bit, you might feel a slight heaviness in your head or a subtle lack of clarity. Many households live in poor lighting for years without realizing it. Curtains stay closed all the time. Light focuses on one area while other corners stay dim and murky. Living in that kind of space for a long time, you do not feel tired in a dramatic way, but there is always this underlying fogginess, a kind of fatigue you cannot quite name, but it follows you every day. And natural light represents positive energy. When the home lacks light for too long, that energy weakens, and the space tends to hold on to a state of sluggishness. In modern terms, it is simple. Light is a signal to the brain that the environment is safe and clear. When the lighting is inconsistent, the brain must constantly adjust, and that adjustment drains energy you are not even aware is being used. What surprises me is how many people complain about procrastination, indecision, or spending money just to blow off stress without ever connecting it to the lighting in their homes. People who are quietly worn out are more likely to buy random things just to feel a little better. Important tasks are put off because the mind never quite feels clear enough to think long-term. Interestingly, in many of the cases I have observed, before life began to feel less messy, the lighting in the house had already been fixed. Not because of any Feng Shui intention. It was just that opening the curtains made them feel better. Or they changed the light bulbs to make the lighting more even. Or they moved things that were blocking the windows. These were very small changes, but when the lighting became more stable, life inside the home started to shift. People became more alert, their daily rhythm more clear, and the spending caused by exhaustion gradually decreased. Sign number 3. You unexpectedly run into small bits of luck when you go out. Many people have experienced this but brushed it off because it seemed too small. You go out and suddenly encounter a few tiny benefits, little things that do not draw much attention. But after they happen a few times, they start to feel familiar. Like spotting a few loose coins on the street. Not much, but enough to make you stop and pick them up. Meeting a stranger, chatting for a minute, and it just so happens they bring up something you were thinking about. Or overhearing a random bit of information that, without it, you might have made the wrong call on something important. I have noticed these kinds of things usually happen when your life rhythm has started to calm down, when your mind is not constantly racing, when you go out and still have enough mental space to look, to listen, to pay attention. At that point, your ability to notice becomes sharper. Your eyes catch more detail. Your ears listen more deeply. Your thoughts are no longer cluttered with half-finished worries. Things that were always there finally start to show up. In everyday life, some people call this good energy flow. Put simply, it is when things move along more smoothly, fewer little hiccups. Tiny bits of luck show up at the right moment, saving you from wasting money, time, or effort on decisions that are out of sync. What I have clearly seen is that most people only recognize this pattern in hindsight. While it is happening, things seem too small to notice. But when you place it next to changes in your home and daily routine, a common thread starts to appear. As your living space softens, the world outside starts to flow more easily too. Sign number 4. Small tasks start happening without being blocked. There is a sign that is easy to spot but often overlooked because it is too quiet. It does not feel dramatic. It does not make you feel like something big is happening. But little things in daily life start to move more smoothly. Everything flows at the right pace. When something is urgent, you are less likely to face delays. In the morning, the road is still crowded, but somehow your car makes it through on time. You call someone, and they answer after just a few rings. Paperwork still needs doing, but the process is quicker and simpler. Things you once expected to be a hassle turn out to be easier than you thought. Changes like this do not bring excitement. They do not feel like a big win. But live long enough and you will see these are the kinds of changes that make a day feel either light or heavy. I have noticed this sign appears more often when people start living at a slightly slower pace, not because they suddenly have more free time, but because they are no longer being pushed from within. When life feels less rushed, your approach naturally shifts. Your hands do not move faster, but they are more accurate. You do not speak more, but your words are clearer. Your mind stops being pulled in useless directions. It sounds very ordinary, but I have seen it happen too many times to think it is just luck. There are days when leaving the house a few minutes late, stuck at the door, searching for keys or shoes already puts you in a bad mood. Then comes traffic. You make calls while feeling tense, and your tone sounds rushed. The person on the other end feels rushed too. Just a few small things like that, stacked together, and by evening you are worn out without knowing why. When the clutter in your home starts to disappear, your pace outside softens too. Life does not have to change overnight. The real shift is in your state of mind. Less irritation, less rushing, and somehow the outside world slows down with you. In Feng Shui, people often talk about energy, flow, or blockage. That might sound abstract, but if you strip away those words, what is left is simple. When your space puts less pressure on you, you stop bracing so much. And when you stop bracing, the world around you stops pushing back. What stands out to me is that most people only notice this when they look back at a whole phase of life. While they are in it, everything just feels more normal. Fewer complaints, fewer things that need fixing, less frustration out of nowhere. But that feeling of normal, that is actually something rare. Because when small tasks stop getting blocked again and again, your energy is no longer drained bit by bit. Whatever energy remains, even if just a little, is enough for people to start focusing on bigger, long-term matters. Money, work, relationships, health. I have seen many people who only realize later that there was a very unusual chapter in their lives. The rhythm back then did not soar, nor did it crash. Things simply flowed. Each day came with fewer bumps than the one before. That stretch kept them grounded and prevented things from slipping further. If you pay attention, you will notice that this sign never comes alone. It usually appears along with a clearer front entrance, more natural light, and steadier routines. Small changes, but repeated long enough to create a new way of living. At this point, you might be wondering, these signs feel familiar, but I do not see them in my home. That is totally normal. These signs often arrive quietly. Life feels familiar. Spaces feel ordinary. We walk through them daily without stopping to notice. Before going on, I want to pause with you and reflect. Why are there times when life keeps moving, yet we do not see any signs? Most people who miss the signs are actually trying really hard. Worry every day, take care of everything. Minds constantly running ahead. Over time, this creates a default tension. Everything gets seen with one goal, just finish it. When that's the focus, small shifts often go unnoticed. Another common reason is that people live in a space that has become too familiar. The house stays the same. The furniture, the lighting, the routines, they all become automatic. And the truth is, signs often show through subtle changes in those exact familiar things. When we stop paying attention, we stop seeing. What surprises me is that many only notice the signs after going through a rough patch. That is when they finally slow down, look at their home and rhythm, and realize that things had already been changing. The entrance was already more open, the lighting already better, small tasks were already flowing, but life had moved too fast to appreciate it. Some people wait for a big, clear turning point to say, "My luck has changed." But real shifts often begin quietly. They start small. And when we overlook those, waiting for something big, we miss the fact that change has already begun. Some people, when reflecting, recognize the feeling. Life kept going, but the signs felt vague. That usually happens when daily life becomes too smooth, too routine. When everything flows, the eyes adjust to the calm and stop noticing the subtle shifts. During times like that, life usually prioritizes stability. Not rising, not falling. The tense parts begin to cool. Old knots slowly loosen. Movement is still there, but under the surface, hard to detect right away. Many only understand the value of that period after it ends. Looking back, they see things were smoother, fewer new problems appeared, routines were clearer, and small obstacles faded. At the time, it felt plain, but later, they see it was what kept life from slipping off track. So if you do not see any big signs right now, do not pressure yourself to find some deeper meaning. Just maintain a steady routine. Let your space function well. Observe gently. Life has many layers. Some are obvious. Others need time to show. Looking back, you will see that all the signs we mentioned are small. None of them scream change, but that is exactly what makes them powerful. Life is starting to resist itself less. Feng Shui, when you remove superstition, is simply about noticing how your space and your rhythm interact. When your doorway is clear, the light is steady, small tasks stop tripping up, and little wins appear. That is when your space stops pulling you into constant tension. When you no longer brace yourself every day, the bad decisions start to fade. And from there, it becomes easier to protect your energy, your money, and your flow. Even if you start to see a few signs, there is no need to rush into feeling excited. Just recognize that life may be shifting towards something lighter. And if nothing is clear yet, that does not mean the opposite is happening. Sometimes, life needs to settle first. Settle to realign. Settle to prevent further missteps. For me, the key is not waiting for luck to arrive. It is simply not making things messier when they are finally starting to fall into place. Keep your home tidy. Let in enough light. Stick to steady routines. Watch without over-interpreting. And give yourself time to slow down just a little. The rest, if it is meant to, will arrive in its own way, quietly, but clearly enough for you to know that in some chapters of life, simply feeling a little less tired is already a big step forward.